Bottom, here's the complete procedure. Now I'm starting with the 1 hour as my highest time frame, but really it could be any time frame as your highest. This highest time frame is forming your context. You're trying to gain an idea of whether or not price will generally go up or generally go down, or start up and then go down, or start down and then go up. These context decisions are informed by the price action that's around them. And you'll find that this is really reliable. So the notion of a Betty or a Susie are noise floors that occur in premium and discount, and it is presumed that a Betty is a noise floor that occurs in discount, and a Susie is a noise floor that occurs in premium. Anything above a Susie is ultra premium, and then anything below a Betty is ultra discount. But price will not return higher unless it enters another Betty. So that's the main idea. What I try and do is I look week to week. So if you see these lines here, it shows that that's Sunday. So it goes Sunday all the way to Sunday. Here again. And well, maybe I don't know exactly. Maybe that's the month it's covering. Yeah, it looks like it's covering the month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down an example week. Then I'm breaking down several things. Number one, the context formation, and then how you break down where you expect the turning point to be. And we work primarily in quartiles. So what we care about with a Betty and a Susie is the midpoint and the last 75th, last 3/4 quartile. So as an example, I'll show you. Here you have a Betty, a lower low to a higher high. And then once it starts to retrace or goes below a bull bar at all, that's considered the Betty's over. So what we do, this is how you mark out your context levels. The very first thing you do is you mark out the 50% level. Then you bring the line again and you mark out the 25% level. Then the last thing you do is you mark out the stop. Okay. Then the next thing is you go to the next Betty below that. So in this case, that would be this one here. Oh, right there. And the stop and the mid are the same thing. So we're going to ignore that. So if you were to map out the, I'm only putting this here for reference, but if you were to map out, oh golly. Map out the 25%, it would be there. The next one after that would be, you want a lower low to a higher high. So, and actually, you could use that one. But then also this one is one, like that. So those are basically in the same spot. So I wouldn't count that. I would just move it to the more conservative version, like that. Because you're working with odds. You're not working with exact. You know, there's a little bit of what do I want to say, probabilities to it. But even with that, you'll find it's pretty exact. Okay. So what we've mapped out here. Oh, sorry, and then the stop. So I'm just going to mark that as red. And then mark that as red. So now anytime you have a Betty or a Susie break, so if you have a Betty in discount where its stop gets taken out, there's a change in context. Okay, that shouldn't have happened if we're going to continue to go much higher soon. But again, the local range will dictate that. So what you notice here is that I've got the midpoint and the quarter point, midpoint and the quarter point. So in this case, the midpoint holds, but then the quarter point doesn't. And so when the quarter point doesn't hold, it goes right through the stop. And then it goes to the midpoint of the next one, and then to the quarter point of the next one, and that stop holds. And then look at this. It goes again, and it seeks that. And it takes that stop out. These are Betty's. Where's the first Susie that you see? Well, all Betty's create Susies. All Betty's do. So the very first one that you see is this high down to that low. That happens. But here's the thing. Look at how close Betty and Susie are. They're close. So we can map it out. That's fine. There's no problem there. But look at that behavior. This tool's not the best for drawing. Did that just get rid of my lines? Yeah, okay. No, it did. This is frustrating, man. All right, whatever. I'm going to leave that there. So what you see is it comes up to the midpoint and it rejects down to the midpoint and it comes back up to the quarter point and then it rejects, but then it holds and then it goes higher. What does it hold? It holds a Betty. Look at the Betty right here. See it? From here to here. It holds it. Doesn't even get to the midpoint. So what's it going to do? Most likely it's going to take this high out. So it does. But then when it does that, it creates another Betty, or creates another Susie, excuse me. So what do? We map out the mid, just like that, and then the quarter. All right, now I want to point something out. All right, now I'll point something out. That on Friday, okay, on Monday, we create a Susie into the mid of a Betty. So what would you expect to happen? You'd expect that to bounce off. If it does that, the first place you'd expect it to go would be at least to the mid of the Susie, which it does first before it goes to the mid of the Betty. So it does that. Boop, boop. Holds and then creates another Susie or another Betty. So if it does that after testing the mid, if it tests that, it creates another Betty relative to this low, that high, and this low, we've actually formed a kind of a premium and discount. So what happens? You get a Betty being created from relative discount. So the chances are it may take this out. It does, and then it creates another Susie. So we're going to watch that. Now what we care about is thinking about, since we've already been here, as you track along, as you're moving forward, since we've already been here, where's the next place we expect it to go? Here, and then here. And it does. And it continues. And so where would we expect it to go? To the Betty below, to the mid of that. And then it does, and it holds. Tries to hold again. It fails. Creates a Susie. Holds. Where? Down to the quarter. Holds the stop. And then that creates another Susie. Another Betty, excuse me. Like that. So what do we want to do? Sorry, my mouth noises. Okay. And then we got our stop location right there. There. Okay. So now what we expect is, what we want to see is a Betty get created and hold, and then we would expect it to go to the mid. But we want it to do that without creating another Susie. Okay? It doesn't do that. It creates a Betty, and then that creates a Susie, which tests the mid and then doesn't hold. That doesn't take it out. It takes it out, and that's good, and then right back down and it creates another Susie. So now, are we thinking this is going to go higher up to here? Not yet. No, we're thinking it's probably going to come down here. And that's how you have to do, is you have to just keep playing these locations out until the context becomes clear. So we took this liquidity out, and look what happens. This rolls up, nothing, down, and then it creates another large Betty. And have we gotten up to this mid yet? No. It took this all out, took that all out, and then it creates a very large Betty. So there it is right there. And there's our mid. I didn't mean to do that. And then bring this down. And there's our quarter. Okay, so now we have a large Betty, and the mid holds. Do you think it's going up there? Very likely. Okay, so it got to the mid right there. I was pointing at that as the mid, but it's actually the quarter. It gets up to the mid of it, and it rejects it. And then it rejects it, and does it create a Susie? So it rejects a mid, and then creates a Susie. So when it does that, that means the context of this is still in force. So the sellers are still in control, even though we got these highs taken out, that high taken out. So it looks like the buyers are in control. Not really. It's just a way to get to here. Look at what happens when we test it. We get there, and it creates a Susie. So what do? Map it out. Oops. Oh, sorry, I did that wrong. There we go. And look, it maps it right to the tick. And then we can get rid of this. So we can say, okay, so is that our stop now? That's not our stop. If this gets blown through, we're going to that. What does it do? Where after this holds and that gets created, where do you think it's going to go? Is it going to go past here? Probably it's going to go past here. So where do we think we're going? Right down here to this quarter. What does it do? And it plows through it. And you just keep carrying that forward until you are able to figure out what the context of who's in control. So that when you look at, so then if you're in this situation where the ultra discount of your Betty and the ultra premium of your Susie are opposed. So let's say it's this day, Tuesday, 4/18. We are opening where? We are opening an ultra premium of this previous Susie. We are opening in that ultra premium, and we had that mid right there. Okay, so we're opening an ultra premium. So do you want to buy an ultra premium or do you want to sell? You want to sell. So we test up, and then we create another Susie, which gives us an opportunity to test the equilibrium of that second Susie. So where do we think it's going? We think it's going to discount. And discount in this case would be down to this previous Betty. That's how to think about it. And we don't really have a Betty in here that I can see. Maybe you could say that one, but that Betty creates a Susie that immediately takes it out. So it's invalid. So what's left? Maybe you could say this right here. Maybe you could say that. And where does it test to? Right to the mid. Boom. Holds it for a second and then dumps it. So this is the methodology of holding your context in play. Now the next thing is this, is that let's go back to see this price. Let me put that all back. Let me do this all again. I'm going to map this Susie. There you go. Now this is the second part, is how do you enter this? What are you looking for? Well, I am looking for a Susie inside of this right here. Wherever there was a Susie, inside of there is likely where I think my entry should be. And I'm going to mark this color, whatever that color is. Okay, so I'm going to wind back. I'm looking for two basic things. There it is. Take this off. Doesn't matter if it's bigger or smaller, not consequential. So I'm looking for where it gets created. All right, so I want to see, given that this is where it started, I want to see the first Susie. There's that one. Yeah, there's that one. Make that one red. There's that one. Excuse me. The first Susie near the midline. That's my mistake. First Susie near the midline, where this line is. So where do you see one? The very first one near that midline. Right there. There it is. Okay, because you have a higher high and a lower low, and then it starts to come back up. So there it is, right there. Then you also have one right there. So I would honestly, I would probably take, because that aligns with the midlines of all of those, I would probably take the higher one. But you run the risk of missing it. Okay, none of this matters. None of that matters. So watch this. Now I'm going to wind this forward back to where the entry hit comes in. There it is. I didn't know what that was going to look like. See that? Comes up, whacks it, and they're both on there. You can see it. They're both on there. Comes right to the mid. Boom. Creates a small Susie. Now look what it looks like on the 15 second. Comes up. There. And now, if you want to use that, you could say, all right, I want to use this right here. I want to use the mid of this to enter. I want to wait until it's happened first. There it is. Boom. And again, you can say, well, I want to enter right here. And I want to enter again right there. And then my stop can be at the very top of that. You have not even a 2 points of heat before you're in the money, like an enormous amount. And then this, 8:35. Oh, that happens at 8:30. Oh, how about that? Oh, that's interesting. So that happens at 7:30. And then at 8:30. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So it takes it at 7:30, that happens, and then at 8:30 it does it again, and then at 9:30 it does it one more time. Either way, it still holds the high of that in this case. The ultimate stop where you'd want it to be would be right there. That's the high of the 1 hour bar that created the PD array. So right there, 304 is your stop. And you just always go back one bar. So look at the way it does it. It's very fascinating. So there's your stop. And for me, I would wait. If there's no news, I would not sell the 8:30. I'm going to wait for the 9:30 attack on this. It comes up at 9:30, tags it 9:49, and then sells it off big time. And that is the methodology for finding these big turns. The methodology for unpacking a, like this. You see this here? You see a Susie that's created as a result of that higher time frame, and it comes back to the mid right there, but look at what it looks like on the 15-second. Okay, so you have your that stays open like that. So you want to be 4 points, and then you use that as your stop. 97. So not, it's 11 points total. But realistically, you could use something shorter than that. You could use that as a stop right there, and say, hey, I'm even gonna use this as a stop, 92 as a stop, and then I'll enter again if it pokes up through there. So that methodology works as an entry scheme. Look at we'll do it again. I'll show you. So higher high, lower low, right? Where does it happen? Right there, and then it comes back. This one's really clever because you don't see it easily. Higher high, lower low, bull bar. Make that red. All right, and on the 15-second, you could even tighten this up. Check that out, and you go. Look at that. Look at this. That's your stop right there. So 4 points. Mid, and then the quarter. Easy. Okay, that's it. Let me know if there's any questions.